In the last video, you learned how to set up Redux flow using a plain vanilla Redux app. We did not integrate it with React or anything else. We were just looking at Redux. We're going to continue with plain Redux, but this time we're going to learn that how we can pass in extra payload to update particular state or global state. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and create a default state. So let's call it default state. And this time we're dealing with multiple things. We have a checking account where balance is 0. And let's say that we have a savings account where the balance is also 0. Now we need to create actions that will allow us to update a particular account, whether it is checking or savings, with a certain amount, whether it is $10 or $100. So let's go ahead and create an action deposit. This will be a function, and it's going to take in account as well as the amount. We're passing these two different things because we need to know the account, whether you're trying to deposit in a checking account or a savings account. And we need to know the amount, whether you're depositing $100 or $100,000. It's an action, so we're going to return an object, and that object will have a type. The type is going to identify what kind of action you are performing, which we will be using in Reducer. But you can pass in extra properties to your action. Let's say that if you want to pass some additional data, which in this case we do, we want to pass in the account and the amount to the reducer so that the reducer can update a particular account with a particular amount. I'm just going to call it payload, but obviously this is a property, so it's completely up to you, whatever you name it. But usually in online and documentation, they're calling it payload because we are passing extra stuff with this action to the reducer. So that extra stuff is known as payload. But again, you can use any name that you want instead of payload if you want to. The payload value is an object. It doesn't have to be. It can be anything. But we're keeping it as an object because I need to pass in the account and the amount. So I can go ahead and create an account property in that object where the value is account, and the amount property where the value is also amount. This means that the account that you're passing to the action is going to be the value for the account property, and the amount that you're passing will be the value for the amount property inside the payload. Just like the action deposit, we can create action withdraw, which will have a following signature. Let's obviously change the name. It's going to be withdraw. When we're withdrawing, we also need the account, whether it is checking account or savings account, and the amount that you want to withdraw. We do want to change our type from deposit to withdraw. Next up, we need a reducer. And if you remember correctly, it is reducer's job to update the global state. Let's go ahead and create a function. We will call it accounts state equals to default state and action. That is a signature for a reducer, a function that takes in a state and action and returns the updated state. Inside the reducer, we need to find out that whether the person is trying to deposit or withdraw. We can perform a switch on action.type. That is why we have created this type property which is deposit or withdraw. So the reducer can now know that whether you're trying to deposit or withdraw. If the case is deposit, then we will return a new object, a brand new object, where we will copy the previous state. This is called the spread operator, and it is part of the JavaScript language. What this is going to do is going to copy the complete object called state with the properties as well as the values. And now we can update one of the values. So what do we want to update? Well, we want to update checking or savings. So this is our default state. On the left hand side, if we say something like action.payload.account. Now, if the account that you're passing was checking, then this will be the checking property getting updated. Next, we need to get the state from action.payload.account. Now, what does that mean? Well, state is the state object, so it's right there on line number 6 through 9. Action.payload.account. So let's copy this over here so that we can better understand it. So if this is a state object and we're going to delete it, so if this is a state, and action.payload.account, let's say that we are trying to update the checking account. So we will say that action.payload.account is equals to checking. All of this code is not really going to work. We're just trying to understand what this line actually means. So state and action.payload.account, which means checking. So I can do something like this. And in JavaScript, this is the same thing as typing something like this. Now, what exactly is the value of checking? Well, the value of checking is 0. So that is why, or that is how we get to the value 0, or whatever the value is for the checking account, or whatever the account is being referred over here. Now, let's go and add the amount that you're passing from action.payload.amount. Perfect. Now let's go ahead and see that how we can actually use it. In order to use it, I need to create a store. So store equals to create store and passing in the accounts, which is acting like a reducer. I'm going to go ahead and call store.dispatch and dispatch the action deposit, passing in the account, which in this case is checking, and the money that I want to deposit, which is $100. After performing the dispatch, I can go ahead and print out the current state, the current global state of the store using console.log. Let's go ahead and refresh. And now you can see that we were able to deposit $100 to our checking account. So this means that our reducer is able to update the global state. Now, every time the store gets updated, we want to simply print out the current state. Which function can I use to subscribe to the changes you are making to the global state? It's the subscribe function. This means that any time the global state gets changed, the subscribe function is going to get called and it's simply going to print out the global state. Let's go ahead and refresh it again. And you can see that we are able to print out the global state because the global state got changed since you are dispatching an action. Let's go ahead and deposit $10 more to our checking account. And now you can see that our checking account contains $110. What about the withdrawal? How can you withdraw using the same techniques? Let's go ahead and write withdraw. Try to write it on your own. Withdraw. If the case or if the action.type is withdraw, then we will return, copy all the old state, the account, because you might be withdrawing from savings account or a checking account, get the old state using action.payload.account and adding the action.payload.amount. But not adding, right? It's a withdrawal, so possibly subtracting. Let's go ahead and deposit into our savings account. And let's go ahead and withdraw from our. Now, do we have a withdraw deposit or action withdrawal? Let's go ahead and see action withdrawal. Yeah, we do have that from checking. And let's go ahead and withdraw $75. Let's go ahead and refresh it. And now you can see all the different actions taking place. It is withdrawing as well as it is depositing. So we have created a global state using Redux where we have actions now that can carry an extra payload, and that payload can be used in the reducer to update the global state.